Welcome back to Feature Fanatics. Today we're harnessing our chi and talking about all things Kung Fu Panda. And joining us are two contenders to become the next Dragon Warrior. First of all, hailing from Toronto, Canada, he's a film journalist and fellow member of First Reviews. It is Master James. How's it going?
Hey, Gol, thanks for having me. Yeah, I can't wait to be the Dragon Warrior, I'll
Yeah.
do it all for
And
Japan.
then you guys can share, I guess. And then hailing from Australia is a guy who's done plenty of film reviews and celebrity interviews for Nova Stream Network, including Kung Fu Panda 4 director Mike Mitchell and producer Rebecca Huntley. We got Master Nick, if that's what you'd like to be called, from nicksflicksfix.
I can be called Musnik, but I'm just here for the dumplings. So, but thank you for having me on. I'm excited to be here to talk all things skadooshing.
The rap party for this episode will be a dumpling potluck, a virtual.
Yeah, we were supposed to bring our own dumplings, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. Anyway, Kung Fu Panda 4 is now playing in theaters, and this is a franchise that goes back 16 years now into our younger years. And overall, let's talk first of all, before we dive into each individual film, what are overall thoughts on this franchise in the world of animation and its place in movies in general?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing I love Kung Fu Panda. They're fun. They're always fun. It's always good action because of the fighting, right? Obviously, the nature of Kung Fu. It's always good battle scenes. And I don't know, it started off with a lot of heart and just the franchise that I've always kind of enjoyed. They're easy movies to watch to me.
I'd agree. I feel like for all of us, they were pretty formative, right? We were probably in our maybe early teens or even 10, 12, 11, 12, whatever, when they came out. So they're quite probably formative animated films. I know they were for me. But like James was saying, I feel like the action and animation was kind of so new for us because we hadn't seen either Kung Fu martial arts inspired or anime inspired action. So it's cool to watch. But I think the reason that they're so beloved still, 16 years almost after the first one came out, is Jack Black. He is very much
I love
the Kung Fu Panda, and his energy and his love and his passion for the characters made it withstand the test of time.
He's the reason that this character and these movies are living on for as long as they have. He is a special talent. He's honestly, as a young movie lover, he was the first actor that I really looked up to and called one of my idols and one of my heroes, because I had watched the first two when I was in elementary school, and of course School of Rock. I had gotten into that, and just his unapologetic creative, just he lets loose creatively, and he's accessible to kids, but also he does adult stuff, and he just inspires everyone that he performs alongside. And I feel like Poe is a great encapsulation of his talents. I feel like each of the movies, I rewatched them leading up to this, and I feel like, first of all, like you said, the animation's great, and it has really patient world building that not many animated movies or franchises have, that get you to understand the rules and the histories of the masters and so on. And also watching them now as an adult, the themes really hold up. They speak to things that adults go through, like being yourself, or embracing your journey, or not letting your past define you or haunt you. And I felt like a lot of the humor still holds up. I never felt like I was talked down on, even during the exposition and so on, when I was rewatching these films. Not to mention, these movies have spawned DVD, direct-to-DVD or short film spin-offs like Secrets of the Furious 5 and Secrets of the Masters, which is about Master Croc and Master Ox. There were 3 different TV shows, only one of which Jack Black reprised his role, which was pretty recent on Netflix. But yeah, this is one of DreamWorks' defining film franchises, and it all started with that first one. The first one came out in 2008 in the summer, and I remember watching this one. I have vague memories of watching it. I was very, very young. It was the thing. It was Kung Fu Panda. That, especially young people as young as I was, it had an impact. Those 3 words together, it was something cool. Like you said, it was something new.
Yeah.
And it resonated because of Poe and because of the visuals and because of the different moves that were incorporated in the action. And I thought it was so cool. From that opening scene when he's fantasizing about being part of the Furious Five.
This is something we could probably talk about for the whole franchise, but especially for this one, as the movie is probably only as strong as its villain, and Tai Lung is the coolest villain. Jack Black is the heart, the soul, the humor, the passion, the energy for this entire film. And then you have Tai Lung, who's like an incredibly evil but kind of fun at the same. Even at a young age, he's sure probably a little bit scary, but he's the complete opposite of who Poe is, so you kind of feel he's an actual adversary to this character that you beloved straight away. But I think two things: Ian McShane is the perfect voice casting for Tai Lung.
Yeah.
And then you have one of the greatest prison break scenes of all time when he escapes, and it's even cooler than some of the action scenes. And there's a lot of action because he's fighting like, it's like the 1 versus 100 sort of fight scene mentality. But I think that's one of the big reasons why Kung Fu Panda is so cool, because it actually has a villain who is not just threatening, but kind of has stakes as well. And I think that's why this works really well, because Poe changes throughout the films, but we always come back because we know what we're getting with Poe. Whereas Tai Lung kind of, to me, is like, okay, this is why the first one might be the best film.
Yeah, Tai Lung. I love Ian McShane too. It's that voice so good. It's perfect for the villain there. Yeah, he's just this. Yeah, even like you're saying, the scene where he breaks out of the prison, it's like just amazing. But yeah, the characters themselves really make it. Like obviously Poe, just like chillin', regular like Panda. Not like this super trained fighter that Tai Lung was bred to like be basically from the beginning. And I love just like this whole story around that, right? Like Tai Lung was trained for whatever years with Master Shifu and just like coming up whatever through the ranks and becoming like the best. And then like at the end, kind of just like leaving him like high and dry. And like you almost like you side with him a little bit too, because you're like, well, like yeah, he like worked him to like the bone, thinking like he's gonna be the dragon warrior or whatever, and then he just ends up just whatever, just like, oh no, you're not the one, there's like someone else who's the chosen one, like kind of thing, right? So like you kind of see like his side of things too. It was which is what I kind of liked about it. So he's not as like evil as you think he is. Just it's a good just antagonist, but
it's enough like complexity for him as a villain, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he doesn't have to
especially
do
for
too crazy,
especially for an animated movie. Exactly.
Yeah, because the thing is, Tai Lung's just angry. Like he just wants to be acknowledged. And when he fights Master Shifu, he just goes, I just wanted you to be proud of me. And his delivering of that word proud, you feel like this, it's suddenly like this scarier thing than this calm villain who's just explaining their plan. Like, when sort of disapproval gets poured onto a student or a child figure, what does that turn into suddenly? Like there's something really frightening about that delivery. Also the bridge scene between him and the Furious Five. When I was younger, I always felt horrible for the bridge. I was like, it's a nice bridge. It probably connects like I don't remember if we see what's on the other side, but it's like all these rocks and it's like but yeah, that's a badass scene too. And the prison break with Michael Clark Duncan as the main prison guard, and I forget who the bird is, but he was also funny in that scene.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, wow.
It was the bird Shen. Hey, that's it's such a character. I think it's such a.
Dan Fogler was the bird.
Of course he was. Where's he at these days? What's he up to? The voice cast is like iconic as well. Oh, that's right. Of course. The voice cast is incredible. Like you've got huge Hollywood A-listers with very memorable voices voicing everyone in this film, but no one phones it in. Especially even with the Furious Five, you got 5 characters who are in the film a fair bit, and they're kind of main characters, and they're really cool characters. But like Angelina Jolie, Seth Rogen, Lisa Liu, David Cross, and Jackie Chan, and then you're like, oh, no one is like half-hearting this. Like they're all incredible in this film. And I think that kind of adds to it. It feels like everyone kind of believed in this project and it comes across. And that's why you can get so immersed into this world. And considering the animation is 2008 quality, which for 2008 is fantastic, and it's gotten better and better every film, there's so much. If you're talking about like the world building, you were talking about Goal, and then it just is such it's hard to not feel like you are a part of this world. And I think as kids, that's really what drew us in. And we kind of were like, oh my God, I am living in the Kung Fu Panda world. This is the coolest thing ever.
Poe obviously becomes a Dragon Warrior, quote, accidentally. Because first of all, I felt horrible for him the way he got shut out of that that party when he was younger, the selection party or whatever. And then when he goes, I love Kung Fu, that part was funny. And then what I do love is that Uguay obviously chooses him, and then he dips to the spirit realm. But like Poe, what I love is that Poe proves that he deserves to be the Dragon Warrior, not despite the fact that he's a panda, but because he's a panda. He manages to use his cleverness and his physique and his mind. Like he manages, right? Like Shifu doesn't train him to shed like who he is. He just trains him to become who he's meant to be, that to unlock what he's already has in him, which we'll talk about later more.
Another aspect of the animation I love, and this is just going back and watching them recently, is that there's such a good focus on the food, which sounds silly to say like initially, but like it looks good. The noodles look good, the dumplings look good, and you kind of like, and obviously because they look so good. But that's the thing. It's obviously such an important part to of China's history as well, is the food side of it, and sort of, you know, their love of it and the care they put into it. So I'm glad that's kind of an aspect of, and again, it just adds that world building as well, but the care that goes into it. And I think this can be said for a majority of DreamWorks animated films, is that, you know, there's so much attention to detail about the elements and things that make a certain world what it is. And I think Kung Fu Panda does a great job of that as well.
Yeah, even just like the way everything, the way it's filmed, right? Like it like pays homage to like the culture, like Chinese culture, and just like just all the like stuff around it, you know, philosophy, like mythology, like whatever's like kind of related to like that kung fu aesthetic that's in the movie, and like all the Chinese backdrop to it all, and just the culture, just like the settings itself are like amazing, look beautiful, like, they're visually appealing, which is what, you know, makes the animation also so well, because everything really pops. There's so much color everywhere, right? It's beautiful,
and it just gets better and better every film.
Yeah,
like,
and it only gets better. Yeah, but I rewatched the first one recently, and it still looks like you wouldn't believe, like, you know, 2008. Like, it still looks amazing. So
one of the important aspects of the film is the dragon scroll, right? Like if you're the Dragon Warrior, you have to be able to get the dragon scroll, and then the way that ties into his dad, Mr. Ping, telling him that his soup actually has no secret ingredient. And then it's like, oh, the secret ingredient is you. And then he brings that into his conversation with Tai Lung. It is so cheesy and done to death in movies today, but it works well here. Especially because, again, Poe is such an unlikely hero, and he has to learn to love himself and embrace these new responsibilities. You talked about, you know, everyone believing in this project. You know, that belief also goes into the themes of this movie. Oogway believed in Poe, and then Shifu did eventually, and then Poe learned to believe in himself and embrace his rightful place as a Dragon Warrior.
It's just nice. It's just, especially for kids like at our age when we were watching it, it's such an important message. And I think, like you said, it's been done 100 times to death, and it can be cheesy, and it is a little cheesy, but it works. And I think because Poe's such a genuine character, and he's such a loving person outwardly. Like, it would be so different if Poe was kind of a dick. You know what I mean? Like, you would kind of be like, okay, you do have to learn to love yourself, but you've got a lot now to work on with others. But he's so lovely to everyone, and he's so nice, and he always sees the best in everyone. He's so obsessed with the Furious Five. Like, he loves Kung Fu, and he is the first one to see the best in all of those people, or those animals, I guess, when they look at him and go, who the hell is this guy? But I think that doesn't come across as cheesy when that character is so genuine and so lovely, and that's why it works.
In terms of how well this movie holds up, let's talk a bit about that. Anyway, this movie got 87% on Rotten Tomatoes when it came out. I'm looking at some quotes from reviews here. People were saying, master course in cunning visual art and ultra satisfying entertainment. Visually arresting. I like this one. Filmcritic.com. Eye-popping sublime artwork, Kung Fu Panda sets itself apart from the modern domestic animation trend with its sheer beauty. Enters instant classic status as some of the most gorgeous animation in Hollywood since the golden age of Disney. And obviously it was nominated for the Oscar for Best Animated Feature, which, you know, lost to WALL-E. But then at the Annie Awards, which is where the animators and the animation filmmakers are voting, it actually won Best Animated Feature over films like WALL-E and Bolt. So that's kind of surprising, but Shows that there was a lot of passion for Kung Fu Panda, even though that was probably the year of Wall-E overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough film to beat, Wall-E, but like I said, it got the nomination, it's got the critical acclaim. We're still talking about it 15 years later. Like you mentioned Bolt, no one's talking about Bolt, 15 years later, and I liked that film growing up. So like,
me too.
Kung Fu Panda, I think, has stayed with people a lot longer for very good reason.
I wonder what the negative reviews say on Kung Fu Panda. I would love to.
Oh my god, do we want to go find out? Let's do this.
I kind of want to see one, maybe one.
Yeah.
If you have it open.
Let's find this. We're gonna do it.
I do love that one of those positive quotes were just from filmcritic.com. I love how
I know,
vague that is.
And it was like the best written one that was on Wikipedia. Here, let's find a negative.
Okay.
Here, one of the excerpts is just Kung Fu Panda is pretty much like it sounds.
That's a positive in my eyes.
Yeah, me too.
I don't know what it's supposed to be. Is it supposed to be like
here,
the lighthouse
Panda,
or something? Like what is this? Like?
Yeah.
Like a 4x3 black and white Kung Fu Panda, yeah.
And this one says, even the battle scenes, given the recent advances in live action wire work and blending of stunt performers, are too little kung fu, too much ho hum. I have no idea what ho hum means, but I guess they didn't like the fight scenes. And then People Magazine said,
family film. What's he expecting people to get ripped apart in Kung Fu Panda?
And then People Magazine said the fight scenes are disproportionately long, as if the filmmakers figure the young boys most likely to see Kung Fu Panda are just as action happy as their dads. What the hell?
Again, that sounds like a positive.
Yeah, these all are good things.
Review to me. Like this
for an animation movie. Yeah. Oh
my goodness. Jeez Louise. Yeah, look, I mean, you can take one man's trash and turn it into treasure, and I think that's what those reviews have made me realize, is that there's a lot about Kung Fu Panda that's really cool.
All right, so let's get into Kung Fu Panda 2. This one came out in 2011. How old was I? I was 9 years old, and I remember seeing this one opening day with my whole family in theaters and 3D and all. It basically starts out with Master Shifu telling him that he has to master inner peace, and he has to find inner peace. And soon Po learns how much he needs to hear that. And let's get into Lord Shen. So the movie opens with this like animation, like these, I don't know what I would even call it, but it's like,
it's almost like a 2D, like, for lack of a better phrase, like puppet show. Almost, it's like the characters are so in the foreground, and then there's kind of this like the backdrop never changes, or if it just moves, it's that like horizontal move. But it's incredible. Like each movie sort of plays with a different animation style in different ways, and this one does it a few times actually, which looks incredible.
Yeah, and honestly, that opening, I wouldn't go as far as to say like haunting, but it's definitely chilling the way Michelle Yeoh, first of all, her narration tells you about Lord Shen as him getting sent away, and then we cut into like the metal clanking scene, and then Lord Shen being like, I need all the metal I can get. I felt like that was like that first that first like actual 3D animation scene is like super well lit, and Gary Oldman as Lord Shen. I love this villain so much. We were talking about Tai Lung. Lord Shen is a completely different villain because he's a lot more calculated and a lot more evil. We were talking about maturity in these movies. There's literally a panda genocide in this one. So,
it's heavy stuff. They make it, like, at least credit to the filmmakers. They make it palatable for a young audience too. Like, I don't think you lose any of the stakes or the seriousness of it. It's such a great opening scene though. You're right, Gal. It's so intense.
What is it? It's like the prophecy, right? The prophecy says he's gonna lose to a warrior, a black and white warrior or something or whatever, I forget. And then so that's why he basically massacres.
Looking back at it, Lord Shen, first of all, Gary Oldman is fantastic. He has so many great lines. Like when he's like, the only reason I haven't killed you yet is because I find your idiocy mildly amusing, or your stupidity mildly amusing. Like I love that. And honestly, we get to spend a lot of time alone with Lord Shen, like just him working on his plan or trying to reckon with, like, he's not able to come to terms with what his fate will be. And the soothsayer, he has a lot of conversations with her. And I honestly really love those scenes that we really get to breathe with with Shen. We definitely feel like this truly evil man, having been created by his parents' rejection after the prophecy, and then like he's done some heinous shit. What can we say about Lord Shen?
Yeah, he's bad.
It's true,
He's a bad man.
yeah.
But he is smart. He is smart. He's cunning, and yeah, like you're saying, like they show you like his mentality through it all, and it shows you, how he's building up to take over everything, kind of thing. So.
I think it's another testament to how good the villains are in this series, because the movies just don't work, and I guess we'll talk about one of them later on, where the villain is a weaker element of the story, and it kind of impacts the overall film. But I mean, you come from Tai Lung, who is iconic and voiced by Ian McShane, and then you get another great voice of cinema with Gary Oldman, who is as threatening as he is entertaining. And I agree with you, Gol. Like him spending some time with Shannon and sort of like understanding why, again, Tai Lung just wants to be accepted. There's an element of Shen that just wanted to be accepted, but he was so heavily outcast. He was like, well, no, like I guess this is the, extreme end of the spectrum of reactions that I need to create gunpowder and create a cannon and destroy a whole, village of pandas. But it never once kind of just goes, he's bad for the sake of being bad. And that's comes through Gary Oldman's voice performance as well. There's such a longing to be accepted, and there's such a longing to just, have what he thinks is rightfully his. And that's awesome. I think the villains just really make these movies work so well.
First of all, I love the scene so much, the Wings of Justice scene, and their little, like, the Furious Fives jump into the battle in the beginning. But even the music is so excellent by Hans Zimmer. I just think there's some excellent filmmaking, the pace, the way the action scenes are edited. Again, it never once felt like it was silly for the sake of being silly. Like the humor flowed in because that's who Poe is, but it also felt like it was this really like big sort of adventure. Another part that I think is hilarious is, first of all, my old enemy stares, and then he destroys the small cannon. And then he's like, okay, guys, we did it. Oh, and then he sees like the big cannon when they get to Shen.
It's so funny. Like, and I love that Stairs are the recurring joke in the series as well. But again, it's a testament to Jack Black. Like, if he doesn't commit to the voice of Poe the way he does, it doesn't work. And I think I think DreamWorks, sure, you could say it for all animated films, but I think DreamWorks animation films in particular, especially the last few years, have really mastered the visual gag, whether it's, the reveal of the bigger cannon, the reveal of bigger stairs, or even like any fart joke they have in the Kung Fu Panda films. It's not just like a tasteless reveal. Like, there is some really great animation that goes into these insanely ridiculous visual moments. And I think that's like, I laughed at it when I was, 12 and 16. I'm still laughing at 30. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still sitting here going, like, Kung Fu Panda 4's fart gag had me giggling like a school child. And that just means it works. You know what I mean? And that's exact same with the bigger cannon and the bigger set of stairs. You sit there and you go, okay, that's really well done. That's a good joke. It's immature, but it's really well done.
Also, I don't care. The joke does not get old of Mr. Ping revealing to Poe that he's adopted, and then he just continues that joke through the whole third movie. Like, you're adopted. It's like, what? And the whole thing about
it's good. It's a good bit.
About like, my life and my soup have always been sweeter. I feel like that line is so touching.
And how lovely is James Hong? Like the fact that he's like he's like what, early 90s, mid 90s.
He's 95 now.
For Kung Fu Panda. Holy
he just turned 95.
And he came back for Kung Fu Panda 4, and he hasn't lost a touch. Like, he's such a lovely character, and he's such a great voice actor. It's such a nice touch having James Hong in there.
Yeah, I like the fact that they dug into the past too, right? It added a little more depth to the movie and gave Poe's character just more like emotional depth, and you see his whatever upbringing and traumatic past, I guess, and and you see like on his journey towards in his own inner peace, which is what the movie kind of started out as, based on like what Shifu said and like how it all kind of connects. So I thought that was really good, and it balanced it all really well.
I really love the editing in that whole scene with where the soothsayer rescues him, and you see like the traumatic incidents from his past while he's doing the inner peace movements and coming to terms with who he is, and he takes the drop, and then of course I cannot tell you how satisfying it was to see him do that with the cannonballs, and
Oh my god! So
and he does it like with a bunch of them, and he does like this thing to Shen, and then he of course goes skadoosh. Honestly, and then that like fight on the boat at the end with Shen finally accepting his fate in his final 2 seconds, and he dies. Bro, so satisfying. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
it's done so well. The animation of, like you said, the cannonballs and sort of that like light trail they have and the slow motion used in that, it's just it's so dynamic, and I think it's fun. Like in fairness, like all the action scenes in Kung Fu Panda 2 are a step up from the first one, and that's not degrading the first one because they're incredible, but the animation style that they use, the techniques that they use, and then having this sort of more grandiose action set pieces for number 2 makes it incredibly exciting. Like it's such a fun movie.
He comes back to Mr. Ping and says, "I finally know who I am. I'm your son." That's such a lovely moment because he realizes that, you know, everything in his journey was worth it because it brought him to be the son of who his father is now, and he embraces all the different sides of him, which we see a little more in the third one. But it's a lovely final scene.
You see the tragic past in both the characters, right? Like the main character and the antagonist in Po and Shen. So they kind of parallel that, and then it shows, I guess, the difference of like Po coming to terms with it, and even like onto like I guess their whole like conflict is Po comes to terms with it, Shen never can, and Po even tries to get like Lord Shen to kind of like reason with him or like see like this is whatever the way it is kind of thing, but never accepting of it, and then it ends up being the conflict, the major like fight.
And I love his relationship with Tigress too. They really flesh out their friendship here as well. And the joke of like Poe's having daddy issues when Viper says that, and then Mantis is like, "My mom ate my dad's head right after they got married, or right after I was born," something like that.
As much as we've been talking about how great the characters are and how great the action is, like the humor as well is so apparent in all of these films. Like it's some great abstract humor that really does work for these characters.
They're in the dragon costume, all of them, and they're like eating the wolves and like pooping them out, and then you get like a bird's eye shot, and it's like paying tribute to Pac-Man, where they're like eating the wolves and pooping them out.
Oh yeah.
It's the sweetest little gag.
It's such a good little joke. Yeah, you need that because it kind of juxtaposes the not seriousness, but it's, you know, the authenticity and the more adult themes. Like you kind of need those. It's why Pac-Man dragon poop jokes are good. It's why fart jokes are good. Like you just need them to balance it out a little bit. And if you're gonna do it, you commit to it. That's when it works. It's definitely a step up quality-wise, like animation quality-wise. The action scenes are a lot more dynamic and a lot more larger scale. The humor's still there. The heart's still there. I don't think it loses anything that the first one didn't have. I think it's quite a lot of the, you know, similar beats. So maybe the only thing I would say is like it only does new things within its visuals rather than its story and its themes, you know. But that's not to its detriment at all. I think they're both quite high quality films and both quite entertaining. So it's nice to have a sequel that doesn't just fall super short of its predecessor. I think that's the biggest strength with Kung Fu Panda 2.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like similarly. I feel like it kind of took the similar plot, right, and applied it just to the second movie, but just upgraded the visuals, of course, and a little bit of other pieces, but still like a lot of the same elements of like the first one, right? The typical like hero's journey thing, which is like rehashing it with a different kind of perspective, but still using Po as well. And yeah, just, you know, it just wasn't. I maybe didn't have as much heart as like the first one, but it was still an enjoyable movie. And fun to watch, good characters as always, and you can always watch Jack Black, like we're saying. I think we all agree we can watch Jack Black in anything, so that keeps it going.
Yeah, I also like this one more than the first. I think they just stepped up everything that made the first one great. It got 81% on Rotten Tomatoes back in the day. It was also nominated for animated feature at the Oscars, but it lost to Rango, which, I mean,
Interesting.
Rango's decent, but again,
It's good.
I don't think I'd rewatch it as much as I have the countless times I've rewatched Kung Fu Panda 2. That's all I'll say.
I do remember the Rango animation style was what everyone was talking about that Oscars year as well. It's like it's just this almost hyper realistic animation for its time. So I get it, but at the same time, like you said, I would watch this over Rango any day of the week.
Yeah, they probably gave it for that like technical bump, right?
Yeah,
that
for
one.
sure.
Yeah.
And
And then
Gore
because
Verbinski.
it's a sequel too, like it gets a little bit of,
there's a bit of flack behind it as well. Yeah,
always, because it's like, oh well, they just they already made one of those. It looks good, but it's not going to win. It's not like unique anymore, right? Where
as we saw this year, they give sequels a bit of a harder time in this category.
they do usually.
R.I.P. Across the Spider-Verse. Let's dive into Kung Fu Panda 3. This one came out almost 5 years after the first one in January 2016. I also went to this one in theaters on opening weekend, and we open with Kai taking Master Oogway's chi in the spirit realm, and he wants to take every Kung Fu master's chi, living and dead or spirited, whatever you want to say. And he wants to become the ultimate Kung Fu master. And in addition to that, Po reunites with his IRL dad, Li Shan, voiced wonderfully by Bryan Cranston. I love his introduction into the movie because we were talking about great comedy. So like Poe's like he's just had a bad first day teaching, right? And so now he's like in the bath with, and I almost said in the bath with his dad, in the bath next to Mr. Ping, who's standing outside of the bath, and they were talking, and he's like, well, I got other things to worry about. Like my dumpling eating record. He's like, relax, no one's gonna beat your dumpling eating record. And then some pig opens the door. Someone's about to beat your dumpling eating record. And then we cut to Li Shan trying to put the dumplings into his mouth.
Yeah. It's perfect. It's such a good introduction, and Bryan Cranston's the perfect voice for it. But then we also I love that we see Master Oogway at the start again, which is great. Like like I said, this was 8 years after the original, so it's great to see him again. Then you get Bryan Cranston, who's perfect as Li Shan, like has that upbeat, jovial, very anti-Walter White sort of voice. And then Kai,
they really don't mess with the voice actors, eh? They really don't.
No, and then like J.K. Simmons as Kai, like he's
a blast.
This is an A-list stuff. Yeah, it really is. It's so much fun.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons was tons of fun as Kai. He's not necessarily a foil to Po like the other two villains were, but he's so much fun. Like the scene where he finally comes into the mortal realm and he's talking to these two guys and he's like, I'm Kai. Okay, killer of mortals. I don't know. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I used to work with Master Oogway. Oh, Oogway.
Silence. It's so good. But again, it's a testament to the comedy. Like they managed to make that scene funny while not losing like the intensity of like who Kai is as a character. Similar to number 2, like I really do like number 3 a lot. But that ability to sort of increase on the action and increase on the animation style, get another fantastic voice actor like J.K. Simmons in, it's like they really know the formula they had works. I don't know, like I think I'm astonished at how well these have all sort of come together.
Yeah, I think the conflicts they build are always pretty good. I think they're interesting. Sure. It might seem similar in nature at times, but it's something like unique and different into each character. But the conflict, like in the showdowns, always by the end are like really, really exciting, and it's built up really well so that you're really cheering for like Po but you understand like the villains as well. They usually give both of them enough time to like flesh out the characters and stuff like that. So yeah, it was just good to see like Po constantly building on his like own insecurities and whatever to become a better master. And even it shows like with Po becoming like a leader within the community by training like other pandas, I think in that one, right? He was training them like and friends and allies and stuff like that. So they had like they're all like ready for like battle and stuff like that, which was good. It should add a new element to the character as well. Like he's becoming this like leader figure now, right? Not just like the panda who is thrust into the role and then finally like kind of feels like he fits into the role, but now he's like going above that with this one. So it's like the arc keeps going up for him. So he's improving himself constantly, which is good.
Absolutely.
Good message for kids too.
And I wanna acknowledge a bit of character growth here. In the first movie, Poe is a little like frustrated because he's going through some hard training with Shifu to become the Dragon Warrior, and he's like, well, I have to come back here for this kung fu because it's better than just going back to same old me or to my sad old life or something like that. And then early in this movie, Shifu's like, I don't have to turn you into me, I have to turn you into you. And Poe says, but I like who I am. So that's a sweet little bit of character growth that I noticed for Poe. But like you said,
that's a good line, yeah.
Go ahead.
It's nice to see that the character has taken on the things that he's learned from the previous films. Like, he hasn't changed. They haven't changed course for the sake of like creating a new story or the fact that it's just a new movie. Like, the consistency of the character change of Poe over these films is another reason why I think these work so well together, because, as the audience has grown, Poe too has grown within himself. And that's quite nice. It's like you said, it's like we said in the back of the first one, it's so important for kids to know that message. It's important for adults to know that message too. And so when we can see a consistency of someone who took on the changes in a positive way, we kind of go, oh, that's really sweet. That's really nice. And I can do it too. We can all be Poe. You know what I mean? It's that sort of that mentality.
Yeah. I think this movie's a lot faster paced than the past two. Like, the editing is a lot quicker, and it plays with the fantasy elements from the chi to the spirit realm and so on. I also want to mention the skies in this movie are so beautifully animated. Like, there's shades of green in this film, or like, I don't know. I think the animation in this one is even better than the previous two. There's something so well realized about it, and almost artistic when you watch it. Even with the Panda
It's
Village,
definitely a big jump forward. Yeah, I think it was definitely a big jump forward again in animation and visuals. And yeah, like you're saying, like this spirit realm and stuff like that looked really good, and like taking on some type of traditional like Chinese art forms. And I think that's what really amps up the visuals as well, right? Like just makes it the appeal of like everything, the setting, the backgrounds, and the spirit realm and stuff like that. It just really adds to the whole overall aesthetic of the film.
another great visual moment is this is a bit of a tribute to the Wings of Justice scene in the second movie, but the whole like jumping scene at the beginning, and then it's revealed that they're just going to order like with like 3 justice platters and whatever. Like that's also a great sort of comedic visual cue.
I think because we're so used to that point when that's going to lead in. Oh, good. We're like going to lead into an action scene, so it's kind of fun that it's they're just there doing their their order.
The Furious Five is in this one a lot less because a lot of them get killed off like in the halfway point of the movie, and only Tigress manages to escape, and Poe's sort of on his own journey with the pandas. And I also really like how Mr. Ping tags along to the panda village, but it all comes together really well. Again, talk about satisfying action when he realizes that the whooshy finger hold only works on mortals, so he whooshies himself. he whooshy finger holds himself with Kai on him. Like,
it's hectic. Man, it's pretty intense. Like, it's so well done, but that's an intense moment, and then it takes it to like an awesome fight scene in the spirit realm. Like that's it. Yeah. It kind of shows Poe's ability now to sort of like understand the stakes of what he's fighting for and how that all works. So I think it's a really cool. Yeah. That moment of realization he has is sick.
He's like realizing that he's all these good things together. And then he has like the dragon on top of him. I also love the whole like Bryan Cranston and James Hong dynamic, the co-parenting bit of it, because another sweet Mr. Ping part is when he comes to Li Shan and goes, I was scared that you were gonna take Poe away from me, but I realized that you in his life doesn't mean less for me. It just means more for Poe. Which is, I think, one of the sweetest things that Mr. Ping says. And they have the whole double dad defense part. Do y'all remember what I'm talking about? Where Mr. Ping's like tied onto Li Shan, and they're fighting the zombies with the pans.
They're like a team. The
zombies, that's right. I was trying to remember like what the zombies. Zombies, that's right.
And then he and Master Monkey are like zombies, Jinx.
But I think it's fun watching Li Chan and Mr. Ping work together, because they could have been at such odds, both being like I know the literal father and then like the adoptive father of Poe, and it's obviously explored even like more so in the fourth film. But like I just like that sort of immediately they get to work together and then they have to work together and they get on so well. I think that's such a nice element too.
They're pretty hard. Like, they're all like pretty good. It's tough to say. Like usually you can hate one of them. These like sequel, and there's so many sequels and stuff like that. But with the Kung Fu Panda franchise, they always, they make people happy. They have a good action. They're funny. They're interesting. Like there's so many quotable lines, like you're saying, Gall. So many like memorable like little moments that you think of. So it just makes them just good.
Double
so
that
so
defense.
Rewatchable as well. Double that.
Yeah, and then of
That's
course
how you
we
get
got that
extra
great
power,
moment where
dad power.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the last moment is like, I wanna get into this, but obviously it took a while between this movie and the fourth movie, longer than we got between the first three. But for a while, that was sort of the end of the franchise. Was the scene with all of the pandas and Poe at the Jade Palace, and they're all learning kung fu, and and then he like looks behind him, and the Furious Five and Master Shifu sort of bow to him. So I feel like even if we hadn't gotten this fourth movie, that would have been a beautiful ending moment to the whole trilogy, because it brings together everything that Poe has learned and grown into, and the respect that he's earned.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a nice way to wrap the whole story up in that sense. Like I said, if we didn't even get a number 4, this is still it's just a nice ending, and it again kind of highlights that Poe in a very positive way has changed throughout the films, and the story does a great job of not just showing us that, but letting the audience sort of be a part of that. So it's it's like I said, it's a very satisfying conclusion. And then the respect that he has from Shifu in the Furious Five now is amazing. Like these badass characters who we've loved for 3 films, showing respect to the person who we've followed for 3 films. Like it's a really, really good ending. Some animated series, by the time they get to a 3rd film, it's kind of just phoning it in, but they obviously haven't. And that's why we're still talking about it. It's probably why we got a Kung Fu Panda 4, because enough people were like, yeah, these first 3 movies are that good that people would like to see more of that.
Yeah, speaking of more of that, let's finally get into the new release that we're talking about, Kung Fu Panda 4. Poe has to find a successor to the Dragon Warrior position, reluctantly, because he will advance to spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace, and then he teams up with a thief named Zhen to fight the Chameleon.
Immediately with the movie, I guess, let's start with the basics. But it's like the new character right away with, oh my god, I don't remember the character's name now. But you'd think yesterday I would remember this.
Zhen?
Yeah, Zhen. Yeah. Sorry, else. Yeah. I was thinking Zen again. Shen again. But yeah, so the first character right away, I love the character. Very interesting, intriguing. It's Fox, cool Fox. I love foxes, so they're good. They're good looking on the screen. It's visually stunning. I thought the character was fun. It was interesting to see that you couldn't tell if they were good or bad really at first. Obviously they came off as evil at the beginning, but then you see other elements of good, and I like that it started a bit like that, because then you're what, you don't know what to kind of expect, and then obviously as we go on we get into more of the details. But yeah, overall I still had fun with the movie. It looks, again, they always make it look very good, visually appealing, right? Just constantly upping their game in that element, which is good. And just I like the story as well. I think it probably had a lot of similar elements to maybe some of the past ones. So I think a lot of it was kind of recycled in some ways, especially to some of the stuff in the third one. But still, the characters are interesting. The main antagonist was very cool. I like the animation around that character as well, because they can transform and stuff like that. So that was really cool. So I enjoyed that as well too.
This one for me is probably just right off the bat the weakest in the franchise, and I think by a considerable margin. I think Jack Black definitely brings it. That energy's there. Yeah. He hasn't lost that passion for Poe, and you can really feel that. The animation is incredible. Like you said, it's the biggest gap between films in the franchise, so they've had a long time to really hone in. There's some great sort of as realistic as possible animation as you can get. The fight scenes are probably in this one the most heavily inspired by anime, I would say, just in certain regards. And the idea of the chameleon is as a villain is awesome. The shapeshifting into different kung fu masters to, you know, adopt their styles. Then you have Viola Davis, who, if you're considering like the string of villain voice actors we've had, Viola Davis is absolutely a great addition to that as well. But those sort of three elements that work well don't make up the sum of a whole. And I think you can really feel that in this one. I don't think Chameleon as a villain is as fleshed out as it needed to be fully invested. I don't think we spend a lot of time actually really getting to know characters and where they are this later down in their journey. And there's a little bit too much happening. I think there's too many side character quests. And I guess it's just not a spoiler, but like those characters we don't see of the Furious Five until right at the end of the film is kind of really missed. So yeah, I don't know. This one was, I don't think it's a bad movie, but, and I don't even think comparatively to the other ones, it's a bad movie, but it's definitely not going to be featured on any top 10 lists of DreamWorks films. That's for sure.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah. I still, like I said,
like
it's an enjoyable movie, but
sure,
it's definitely weaker, but it's still fun, right? Like, that's what can you do?
I had fun. Like, I had
the
fun.
critics probably won't like it, right? The typical critic crew won't.
It got 71%, which is
fellow friends. Is it
definitely the weakest of the Rotten Tomatoes
they're all like
scores,
80s
but
or
still
90s, right? Typically,
yeah, they're all in the
80s,
80s, the first three, but this one was 71%.
Yeah. Yeah.
And 71% now too is very different than back then, right? Like I feel like if the first one came out now, it would be like 99%, right, on Rotten Tomatoes. Where like because it was older, I feel like there's kind of like ratings inflation almost with movies. So a 71's like probably not even that good, right? So, the audience score was high. I'm just looking at it now. So everybody, like we said, it's still enjoyable, right? 86% audience score. That's pretty amazing. So it's still a fun movie, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah, I enjoyed the flow of the film. It's even the editing and the pace is even faster than the third movie. Sometimes not to its benefit, because like I feel like some of the editing gets a little too cartoonish or a little too like, oh, we did this for the kids to see. I also think it's the weakest in terms of Poe's overall journey. But again, I think there's very entertaining action. I think Jack Black is again really great and really funny. Aquafina, we talked about before we hit record that she's in basically every animated movie now, but she's good. But there were some things missing for me. I do feel like in some ways the animation was almost a bit of a step down. I just felt like it was a little more simplistic and less complex in this one. I feel like they just came off of like doing Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, so they wanted to play. For example, Zhen, the character, I feel like you see a little bit less of the details than you would in like the wolves or so on in the past films. The animation doesn't distract from the film. I just don't think it's as stunning as it was in the third movie. And the chameleon, look, Viola Davis is fun, but we don't spend as much time with her as we needed to. And I think it's a lot of elements that are drawn from either Kai or Lord Shen, particularly like her sort of like seizing of power. Like we see Lord Shen coming into the city and killing killing Master Rhino. Here she's like organizing these crime families, and she's just like, and one of them just says like, "You've already taken the city." You're like, why couldn't we have just seen her take the city? Or it's like, I want tributes, I want gold. It's like, it's very surface level, and her sort of taking the abilities is cool, and I like that it played a bit with the spirit realm. But again, I think we needed to see a lot more of her. I feel like her motives were very. It didn't really hit it all for me.
That's exactly right. Like what I was saying before, is since it plays with so many different characters and different elements that there's not enough fleshed out to really care about what's going on. So I feel like if we had and I don't know what off the top of my head, but if we had a few things taken out and we focused more on the chameleon and the reason why she's doing this, and then, like you said, have a scene where she's taking the city, or focus a bit more on her taking all those or getting all those people out of the spirit realm, then yeah, I think we would have had a bit more investment. It would have been a bit more of a, straightforward story. But yeah, it's just playing. There's like too many cooks in the kitchen on this one. It feels like.
They're trying to probably show too much, especially with like the whole new character of Aquafina, like Aquafina's character, right? I feel like we got a lot of like more of the Aquafina backstory, like instead of like
absolutely.
instead of the main antagonist, where they kind of just threw like, oh, here's like a really big bad character as the evil person, right? And they're gonna be one the fight at the end or whatever. So yeah, like you said, it wasn't really as built up compared to definitely the last three movies, where you feel like, especially starting with the first one with Tai Lung, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is 100% believable. And then as it goes on, you're like, okay, yeah, this is still good. I understand their like backstory and like where they're coming from and like how they've built this character. But this one was just kind of like immediately they just like took over everything, like because of their, I guess, power of being the chameleon, that they were able to just like, I'm the, whatever, I'm master now, or I'm the king now, or I'm whatever, the leader now, right? You can just transform with anything. It's kind of like a cheat code to getting that.
And that was earned. Success. That was earned more with Lord Shen, where it's like, I'm in charge now.
Oh,
Here it's kind of like, oh, she's doing it. Yeah, she's the chameleon, I guess. Let's get a bit into some minor
use that as
spoiler
fear,
alert
right?
from now on.
Yeah.
But
spoiler.
I feel like even like the opening scene here was weaker, because we were talking about the amazing opening scene in the second movie with Lord Shen, and in the third movie with Kai fighting Oogway, and this one is kind of just like Tai Lung rampaging around a village, but it's not Tai Lung, but that's not even set up at all. Like we didn't even have a part where it's like it's revealed to be the chameleon in that scene. So it kind of feels anticlimactic. That's like the threat that we start with is, oh, Tai Lung is back, but it's not explained. And then so our actual introduction to this is the idea of the chameleon is kind of just Zhen in prison telling Po, oh, it's not Tai Lung, it's the chameleon, instead of, like you said, showing us the chameleon transforming in order to wreak this havoc.
Oh, agreed. It to me is like, and with the first three films sort of having that such bold openings that get you in, it's you kind of straight off the bat are a little bit like, oh, okay, is this one going to be a little different than the other ones, and not necessarily in a positive way? And I think it doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't do a lot to really claw itself back after that moment. But yeah, it is a little disappointing.
Yeah, I almost felt like I first thought what they're trying to do with this movie is they're trying to make like Jen like the main character or something. Like I thought they were gonna like transition this movie over into like Jen at some point, because it seemed like they were just giving
Kung Fu Fox.
Like, yeah, like that's what it just seemed like or like a spin-off is coming or something. Like I feel like they were going for something like that, because maybe like Jack Black doesn't want to do them anymore or something. Like who knows? Like I feel like there's some like element of that where they're trying to pawn it off, even like metaphorically with like the staff as well. Like like here you go, like with that whole process too. So that made me think like they just want to like think this is the last one Jack Black's gonna do, and they got to figure out somewhere else to bring it in. So that's kind of what I was like feeling, because that's the way the movie kind of felt. Didn't focus so much on like Po and like you're saying, Gall, like Po's journey in this one wasn't like the same as previous ones. It feels like it was just
because his journey here was like learning that change is good, and that and sort of that like he's all like, but I want to be the Dragon Warrior because I want to kick butt, and I don't know how to just be a peaceful spiritual leader. But like you found inner peace in the last movie. We were talking about consistency with the character arc earlier. I feel like it didn't have much to say with that approach that it took.
I feel like you were talking about. It showed that. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say you were talking about like Li Shan and Mr. Ping. I feel like we could have had maybe like one less scene with them on their side quest for sure. Because like Li Shan like trying to act all intimidating in the tavern, I did cringe a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a little bit cringy. Yeah, sorry, James.
That the tavern thing, that was funny, like a little bit funny, but it almost felt like a duplicated scenes all over again. Didn't really even need to be there. I think, like you're saying, that whole kind of part, it was just, I guess, something to put in there and give the characters a little bit of a whirl and something else. It was funny at first though, like seeing that like intimidating, like I was like laughing. I think that's what the point of it though, right? It was so to be like a little bit ridiculous that everybody who's watching it is like, yeah, I don't believe this at all, and no one. And
I will say that tavern scene does have some really cool long takes in the action as well, though. Like the animation, while it's like, you know, while it's good, not great, like there's still some really fun choreography, and the way the camera, I guess for lack of a better term, moves through the action is still quite exciting. I don't think there's any as memorable fight scenes as the previous films, but it's not necessarily like a drastic step down from quality. Like there is still some decent fun to be had with those, and decent excitement to be had with those scenes.
And for as much as I think, like we said, you don't get to breathe as much, I think Juniper City is still like, you feel that it's big, and you feel that there's all these different corners and even the underground little thing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. The world is still as big as we left it. It just, I don't think it gets expanded on that much, but it's still beautiful, yeah.
I think the underground is funny. What was the line? The line I was dying laughing. It was like, usually I don't like burst out laughing. I'll have like a low laugh for most funny scenes. But it first started with like Poe explaining something to them, and then they took it the wrong way or whatever. But the second time, when
I was like, less violence now means more violence later.
Yeah, more violence later. That was funny. And then the second one was like, they're charging ahead, and they're like, yeah, let's do the right thing for the wrong reasons. And I was dying laughing. It was so good. And they all just charged forward. That was pretty funny, though. That was like the best line for me, I think, in that movie.
And that's kind of a consistent bit, like their constant misunderstanding
of
what Poe's teaching them
is
pretty funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like it works out somehow. Like it's funny.
Also, the big thing, of course, like you mentioned, the Furious Five aren't in the movie.
Yeah.
And now that I've seen the movie, I don't mind just Poe and Jen having gone on this journey. But I kind of think the way they went about explaining it, like with the whole like not cartoon, like the animation with the toys in the beginning, I felt it was a little bit lazy. I feel like we could have even just seen the Furious Five like standing there at the opening of the restaurant clapping or whatever, even if you can't afford to bring back Angelina Jolie, which, I mean, if you could bring in Viola Davis and Bryan Cranston and Dustin Hoffman and Ke Huy Quan, like you could even have them have like one line, even though I understand why they chose to like not have them in it. I feel like you could have had them a little bit.
You would hope they would want to come back too, but I was just looking, like the budget for the third film was $145 million. And the budget for this one was $85 million. So
really,
$60 million maybe worth of Furious 5 actors out the window, perhaps.
I didn't realize that. Yeah, you'd think they would have gave it a little bit more. Considering movies are even like animation movies now are like so much more expensive to make because there's so much more demand like for that type of.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Right? So
also like what is David Cross even up to these days? I'm sure he would have loved to. Just come back for like one line. They got Mr. Beast in the recording booth just to say skadoosh. Right. So,
oh my god,
how much do you reckon he made for that? I don't think it would have been a small amount of money. That's for sure.
No, lots, definitely lots.
80 of the 85 million.
That was a big... He probably did it for something. There's probably like a flash of like Mr. Beast somewhere in the movie. We didn't.
There's probably a Feastables bar somewhere in the. Somewhere in the village.
But yeah, and then the one thing that also bothers me a little bit is another matter of consistency, which is the thing with the spirit realm. I like the idea of Tai Lung coming. Everything with Tai Lung makes sense in this. But then when she was like, bring me General Kai, bring me Lord Chen, I was like, wait, what? Like, first of all, I remember Kai, he gets obliterated within the spirit realm. So how is he still in the spirit realm? Like, that made no sense to me. And then Lord Shen,
no, it makes sense.
Is he allowed into the spirit realm? Because, like, don't you have to be used like the whooshy finger hold to get in there, or is it just any kung fu master? Like,
yeah, it was more the Kai thing. I didn't think about that actually. Yeah,
the Kai thing, like he got blown up in the spirit realm. So I was like, wait a second.
Yeah,
and
how the whole can he come back? Yeah.
The Tai Lung thing, I guess, was cute. Like, oh, Oogway was right. He bows to him. But then Lord Shen would never bow to Poe. Dude, like, I don't know, bro. I know it might be a nitpick because it's a family film, but that thing did kind of... It was like in the back of my mind, like, okay, why do they even need to be here? Again, like, Gary Oldman wasn't doing anything with the character.
What I felt like they kind of did there is where they try to make like all the villains like seem okay. They're not like evil anymore. I felt like that was kind of
like No Way Home.
like Spider-Man. Exactly. That's exactly what I. That's only thing I thought of. I swear to God, when I was watching, I'm like, this is exactly what Spider-Man did. They just make all the villains come back, all the evil people, and then like, oh, they're not so bad after all. Like, you know, they're actually okay people. Like, we're turning them. They're gonna be good now. And that always like throws me for a loop because like you build them. They were built up to be like so evil and stuff like that. And it's like just they just exclude them at this point, but they needed to use them for the development of the other character, right? So they couldn't not do that. So
I think you could have just like deleted Kai and Shen, and it would have been the exact same
100%.
thing. The chameleon saying her whole motive is that she was rejected from every kung fu dojo, so now she wants all the kung fu, right? But it's like because she was too small or too XYZ, right? But Lily, there was a master chicken in the third movie. There's a
that's right.
Master, even in this movie, he mentions as a master chipmunk. I'm like, no way they would reject her for her appearance. I don't know, man. I was like, they should have at least dove
seems
into
like a stretch.
It would have like at least if they explain like, oh, she showed darkness when she was young, or she was I don't know, cheating her way by transforming, so that's why she got rejected. Like,
but this is
I don't
the
know,
lack of
vague.
substance we don't get. You know, that's exactly right. Like, and that's why it's harder to really care about what she's doing, like what her motives are and all of that. And I think that's unfortunately like one of the weaker parts of the story. Like, and then to me, then that's a waste of Viola Davis' talent. You know what I mean? Like, because she's an incredible actress, and she has that voice, this commanding, intimidating voice when she wants to put it on. It would work perfectly, and it should have fallen into the realm of iconic Kung Fu Panda villains, and it's just short.
Yeah, I agree.
Falls short. I think you can say that for most of this movie. Just falls short.
100%.
It feels like an animated movie that Universal produced. Like, some of the editing or the pace is in line with, like, if you put this next to all the Illumination movies, it would be the best. But it feels like it's a little bit incorporating that style. Of course, at the end, Poe makes his decision. All right, it's time to become spiritual leader. And then he decides that Zhen is his successor. Did that feel earned to you? Like,
no. I'm not gonna lie, just no.
It's not even I'm like, this character sucks or whatever, but the decision, like, she just betrayed him, and then she like did one cool move, and then he's like, okay, when you know, you're the Dragon Warrior. I don't know, man.
It's like James was saying earlier, it just feels like the natural progression this film wanted to take. I shouldn't even say natural, and the progression this film wanted to take by forcing it was that Zhen is just the next one we're going to get like 3 Kung Fu Panda movies about. You know what I mean? Or a TV series.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't feel earned. No, I don't think so.
No. I guess, yeah. I don't know if they're trying to go for like Poe, even like Poe starting off as like, you know, not really, everybody didn't think he earned it either, right? Like, he didn't deserve to be the Dragon Warrior or whatever, right? So I thought they were kind of touching on that, but it didn't really make sense in this kind of scenario as much.
But
Poe wasn't betraying people, so
yeah, exactly. It was just like
it would have
like they were whatever having a good time, right? And then just got thrust into it, and not actually like already built up like their personality.
It would have made a lot more sense if Zhen had really taught him something. Like, there's this repeating thing of people repeating these proverbs to each other that they heard from one another or from someone else, which I think was really overused in this movie. But I don't know if Zhen really taught Poe anything, and I feel like if she had, then that would have felt a lot more earned. That decision that after they've gone through this journey together, she is the Dragon Warrior. It just kind of felt like she's the main character and they beat the bad guy together. It felt sort of like also with the villains, them all coming back, that they were trying to make this one feel like the finale, because the third one was sort of served as that, but it made a lot of money and people like Kung Fu Panda and it's Universal. So like, okay, let's make a fourth one. Let's make this one feel the finale where he's passing down the mantle. So I think that's what they were going for. But I think the execution to make us feel like Zhen is the next Dragon Warrior, it didn't feel earned to me.
No, I agree.
But we did get to hear Jack Black sing Baby One More Time.
That was so good.
Which is awesome.
That was the best.
Which is awesome.
That was the best.
So like, why that song in a Kung Fu Panda movie? But I'm not going to question it because it's Jack Black singing.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah. It doesn't, and he kills it. I think it's literally just the hit me, baby. Like, hit me. It's just, it's punch. It's close enough. It was awesome.
I can't believe how good he does some of these things. It's
Oh,
just
man.
amazing what a talent he is too, right? Like,
Yeah.
like,
Absolutely.
he carries these movies and like just like make the musician. Like, it's honestly blows my mind. Jack Black's the best.
He's incredible.
Yeah.
I can't say I'm excited to see where Kung Fu Panda goes after this. Like we said with number 3, that felt like such a perfect end for a great trilogy.
Mhm.
That trilogy's always there, so we have those 3 Kung Fu Panda movies to go back to. Kung Fu Panda 4 is not bad. It's definitely like there's worse movies, but it's just a kind of a disappointing step down in quality across the board. Like the animation is fine, the story is fine. Like Jack Black is the highlight of the film, so if you're a completionist, then sure, yeah, give it a watch. But you got a perfect trilogy there, so you're not losing anything by having Kung Fu Panda 4 there.
Yeah, I feel like
Yeah,
now that
it's,
I've
like,
seen
fun.
it. Go ahead.
It's okay. I was just gonna say a short thing. It's the same thing, kind of like at the beginning. Like, it's fun and all, but it's definitely not the best. And like I said, to me, the biggest thing was just like it felt like they were just passing the torch on with this one. And yeah, like the 3 was a more satisfying like kind of conclusion. If this is to be the final one, and this is kind of like they went one movie too long, right, kind of thing as the conclusion for that. But I guess we'll see. Like you said, who knows what's the future of the franchise might bring, right? Maybe they restart it in a bunch of years, or maybe they take a different direction or something.
Yeah, and
we'll see.
when they announced it, I was excited because I was like, okay, it's been enough years.
Of
The
course.
third one ended well, but you could
Yeah.
do something cool with it. Animation's advanced. Now that I've seen it, I don't want to say it. Like, sometimes it definitely struggles to justify its existence. Like I said, I think the first 3 are great, and this one plays as like a cute epilogue.
Yeah.
But I think now that we've seen this one, the series has definitely run its course, and I don't see how they could make a 5th one as exciting.
No, I agree. It's
Yeah, I
it's
think
just
they have to change it up, or they have to like do something. It has to be different now, right?
yeah, absolutely.
I
Yeah.
feel like they're now they're like trying to just do the same thing. They need to bring in some like new creative talent, juice this up to be something else, or like just pass it off to some other panda, another different panda. Maybe if anything,
Young
give
Shifu
Poe like
Adventures.
if anything, they should give Poe like some kids or something. Like kid pandas that I don't know, something like different.
What about all the pandas he trained at the end of number 3? Where are they
That's
all
true.
at?
Yeah, where are they?
Oh yeah, they weren't
could've
even
been-
in the background scenes.
No, there was nothing.
I
Yeah,
was like, hold on.
Nothing.
I
they
guess
showed
they
those.
just
They
went
showed
back
those
to the
3
village
little
and-
demons.
I guess they just went back to the village and Li Shan stayed because like he's the dad.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, the little guys were funny. What were the little underground
Yeah.
guys? Those little
Slow and
3 underground guys
painful.
were funny.
Violence make our tummies
They were
tingle.
funny. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
Yeah, that was cute.